There's a world you're living in. No one else has your part. All God's children in the wind. Take it in and blow hard. Look around it. Have you found it? Walking down the avenue? See what it brings. Could be good things in the air for you. We are leaving. We are gone. Come with us to all alone. Never worry. Never moan. We will leave you all alone. In the mountains, in the cities, you can see the dream. Look around you. Has it found you? Is it what it seems? There's a world you're living in. No one else has your part. All God's children in the wind. Take it in and blow hard. Neil Young. Welcome back to Language of the Soul, Conversations on Healing and Growth. I'm Ben Umstead.
And I'm Martin Perkins.
So it's quite extraordinary to consider that since editing the book, how your life and my life has changed and how that reflects what we're going to talk about today, which is this sense of one's whole self, of one's life, of how we engage with our inner light when we are in an energetic meditation practice. And you like to call it the unfolding.
Well, the notion of the unfolding as a practice extends well beyond the notion of an energetic meditation practice like Dao Yin. It is the entirety of the practice itself. I was on social media earlier today, and a colleague, a fellow acupuncturist, was sharing that when she does Tarot, which is a intuitive tool used to better understand one's life, she now uses AI to interpret the cards. Now, the absurdity for me that she does so is not a criticism of her decision. It's simply an incredible lost opportunity. The cards are an internal roadmap. The cards are a way for her to feel into, to know better oneself. She believes that the only thing that matters in that process is the end result. ChatGPT gets her there sooner. She gets the answer. This is the shortcut as most people understand it. That version of a shortcut skips the healing and growth process of actually feeling into the cards, understanding the cards not from the perspective of some strict set of rules based on what the cards mean, based on what AI's understanding of those meanings of the cards are, but rather what the cards mean in particular to her. As if that set of cards is going to mean the same thing to every human being. And an incredible opportunity gets lost. A deeply intuitive, and by intuitive I mean intuitive at its core, intuitive meaning to know oneself deeply. She's not really learning more about herself in the process. She sees the learning about oneself as purely an end result. This version of a shortcut is an opportunity lost. There is, though, a different kind of shortcut. What I mean by shortcut in that context is the direct route, the most direct route to a more vibrant, purposeful life. And that's really what the unfolding is about. A recognition that the changing of any of one's circumstances as the first step is really a skipping of the key opportunity to become more vibrant. It's the recognition that accessing wisdom before you begin to change things is the key to a purposeful life. The recognition that if the central part of your life is connecting through a practice to wise choices, then the actions themselves, the changing of one's circumstance, become wisdom based. And that's the direct route. That's the shortcut. You stop floundering about. Like any process, it's not instantaneous. And because it's more direct, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's less suffering. But because wisdom is guiding you, there's a great deal less unnecessary suffering. There's a quote that I share from the unfolding chapter, and I'd like to share it with you now. It begins, "Soul within every individual has a singular purpose and presence, unique to each of us. That purpose is to heal and grow. The expression of that purpose changes or evolves within all of us. It's not static. It is soul's response to help resolve the challenges as we consciously take steps to heal within the growth opportunity present in our lives." That's my poetic way of, in essence, saying what I just described prior to that.
And that really deeply resonates with me in my healing and growth of the moment. I've returned to engaging with much more directly on a daily basis my family members. Being in that dynamic, being in a space where there are habits and patterns that are so ingrained, has been an incredible challenge. Yes, I've felt that edge. And it's an incredible gift. Embracing that fear that can be there, that despair that can be there, through the ego's lens, deemed a negative emotion. Embracing those things has brought me to a moment in the unfolding where experiencing past events through the present and through my inner wisdom really shifts and really offers that transmutation that has always been there. For a long time, I had a negative story that I held on to in terms of how I was as a child. I was an incredibly creative kid. Creativity drives me. That curiosity, that playfulness is my purpose. And I really, really knew that. So I would go off into my room, or I would go outside, and I would make movies with friends. I would make stop motion animated films if I was by myself. I would draw comic books. I would write short stories, or even as I got older, attempts at fantasy novels. I would record radio dramas inspired by, the ones from the 40s and 50s and the Star Wars radio dramas from the 80s. I would build Lego worlds of my own, not just the sets that came out of the box, but my own creations. And I would utilize all kinds of tools to do it. It was a whole production studio of any kind of art that I could bring up. I'm sharing this with you coming from a place of joy, but for a very long time, I lived in the doubt equaling the fear and the despair. The doubt saying, well, surely I was escaping from a home environment that, in many respects, my parents are very good people. They're good Samaritans. And they also had a lot of healing and growth from their own childhoods and their own traumas that they were really struggling with. And that created a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry, a lot of bickering in the household. It wasn't a violent household in the sense that you've talked about from your relationship with your mother, but there were echoes of that because of my father's relationship with his father. And so the uncomfortableness of everybody being able to have their feelings turned into overthinking it, over-explaining it, and basically everyone trying to jockey for the spotlight in some way or another. Me stepping aside wasn't an escape. I didn't shut down. I listened to my whole self. And so that's the thing here. When we talk about the unfolding, it's a non-linear, sometimes irrational thing that happens. I would offer sometimes irrational simply because, what I'm saying right now to you speaks with a presence and a conviction that may sound very rational, right? Sound very grounded. And that's because of me embracing the truth of what, who, how, most importantly, how I was being, and recognizing that's the direct route that you're speaking to. When we come from that wisdom, when we take our time, like you're noting, we recognize our wholeness. That's something that I've known in my core for years and years and years. And coming back each time to the family environment where some of those dynamics still play out, and even in more extreme ways. I don't look at it as an opportunity to shut down. I recognize that I was shutting down as a child and as an adolescent when I didn't make that healthy choice coming from my inner wisdom of, okay, right now, this is overwhelming, this is scary, this is exhausting. I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to go draw. I'm going to go write. I'm going to go build with Lego. I'm going to take that energy that could be turned into an anxious, worried, fearful state of being, and I'm going to create something with it. I'm going to transform it.
So I want to share an accompanying story, not so much about my childhood and its traumas, but rather how the unfolding and the practice of the unfolding found expression within me. What I had put in my way was the experiences of trauma in my childhood. And as I grieved, deeply grieved, not over days or weeks, not even months, but years, I grieved this relationship that informed me about who I am, informed me through trauma, and in many ways guided my choices. And as I grieved these experiences and I rebuilt within myself a capacity for trust, for gratitude, and ultimately for forgiveness, events from decades earlier were seen within me in a radically different place. I began to recognize that this traumatic relationship, because the truth is, my mother's trauma was kind of torturously shared with me. I realized that on a very deeply soulful level, as I let go into my own wisdom, coming back to the very definition that we shared at the beginning of our speaking, as I accessed my wisdom, I realized the intrinsic nature of this agreement that my mother and I shared. Because any shared trauma, as nuts as it might sound, is born at a soul level through some kind of agreement to heal and grow. Whether that opportunity avails itself, that's up to the individual. For me, I was able to recognize, because I did the healing and growth work, that the result of the unfolding within me was that I could genuinely forgive, and really for the first time in my life, actually love my mother in a way that I wasn't able early in life. She became someone who, through our shared trauma, I had healed, I had grown. She had sacrificed because she never had she never took the opportunity, I should rephrase. She never took the opportunity to heal, and she died within a fairly deep depression. And yet, because I was able to do the work, our shared suffering was not wasted. It wasn't for naught. We shared something that ultimately led to me healing and growing in ways that were extraordinary for me. And so in many ways, no, I don't forget the phenomena of what happened between the two of us, but I forgive it. And I'm grateful for the experience because I did the work. This is the nature of the unfolding. Another quote that I share within the unfolding chapter is that the unfolding is the interplay of intention. And when I say intention, I mean our deeply personal intention to heal and grow. So the unfolding is the interplay of intention flowing within deep surrender. And what I mean by deep surrender is the deep surrender into the innate wisdom we all have that manifests ultimately as transmutation. And that process, as it unfolds, as it finds expression, as we creatively work with it, that is the unfolding itself. It is, in many ways, the recognition that it's been there all along. We've been whole the whole time, the entire time. It's a question of whether or not we'll get out of our own way to experience what is innate to all of us.
You know, I've heard you come to that place with your mom through the writing of the book, through our friendship, and larger collaboration with what this is turning into many, many times. And each time there's a cracking of the heart. At one point, I thought you were going to start, crying. I could just see that shift in your body on our video. This is something that I truly want to emphasize as I feel a cracking of my heart right now. When we talk about the unfolding, I think because of the way our world likes to position itself, within the ascension culture, doctrine and dogma, it's very easy to go, okay, here's the shortcut. It's very easy to misinterpret the direct path, the vibrant path. And the unfolding is simply healing and growth said another way. What you shared today, Martin, what I've shared today are great indicators of us being at different points of the unfolding. And I don't say that to say it's some kind of race and we're in some kind of first place, second place, whatever. It's not that at all. I really want to emphasize life, our inner lives, truly, truly do not play out that way. We're at different points in the unfolding because they're our own unique experiences. It brings me back to Neil Young's lyrics from There's a World, from his album Harvest in 1972. And that key lyric, there's a world you're living in. No one else has your part. So coming up on March 29th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Martin and I are going to be doing our first joint workshop, Building Resilience in a Changing World. I really want to emphasize that this is a project, an initiative for all of us to come together in a way where we can all speak from our inner wisdom in order to build the resiliency that as individuals and in a collective common good, we all recognize we need more and more and more of in the world right now. We're going to focus on some things that we've talked about recently in the podcast with the three treasures: compassion, simplicity, and humility. And this is not, in a sense, just a talking informational thing. This is really an interactive opportunity to be present with yourself, to be present with others, and further gain or learn some brand new skills in presence and resiliency. So we're going to be looking at the 4 forms of rest, Dao Yin meditation, that energetic meditation, soul journaling, and really ultimately what lies at our wisdom when it comes out and when we look at it through the lens of society, culture, interpersonal relationships in building resilience and truly, truly, I believe, building a compassionate world. So this is really an extraordinary special thing that is absolutely free. Go head over to martinperkins.com and you can just sign up in the upcoming events. That happens March 29th, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Do join us for this extraordinary initiative and project in building resilience.